What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and today we're taking a look at a collaboration between Crispy Donut Community and County Comm, which is a bit of an unexpected collaboration, but one I'm digging, and I hope they continue to work together because I like what they came up with here. Now, the items that you see on the table aren't just random County Comm gear I threw on the table for the sake of a video. This actually, everything you see here is bundled in when you purchase the knife, so these all ship together at one price point. You cannot buy the knife separately. And so that does give you a hint on the theme for this knife. Obviously, Crispy Donut Community does donut themed gear, but this time we have an exclusive colorway made just for County Comm, and it's sold exclusively by County Comm, and that's the CDC Hanson in black and orange. And I'm really digging this colorway. I think it's a really nice combination, has these kind of Halloween vibes, but also just like a chocolate donut vibe. Sometimes you see chocolate donuts with orange sprinkles. Even though this is black, not brown, it still gives me that vibe. And so I probably like this colorway more than the original, which is surprising. And so we will take a look at that original in a moment here. But besides the color of the scales, we also have a slightly different blade shape. The original was a drop point, and this one they're calling a Tanto. It's probably the most subtle Tanto I've ever seen, but it does still come to a point. It's just not as kind of sharp or dramatic as you might usually see with the Tanto style blade, but I guess it does still qualify there. Only other difference between this and the original is that this is a serialized run. So you can see serialized out of 200, and these are not shipping sequentially. And we know that because so far they've only released 50 of the 200. And so if they were sequential, we'd only have serial numbers 1 through 50, but I got 189, and the rest of the other 150 have not sold yet. And so I bought this during the limited edition or the limited early access run, and so that was normal price, $88.88, which again buys the bundle. They're not selling the knife separately, and so that's the same price that it will be when it releases, tentatively April 22nd. It may release early. Sometimes County Comm does that, so if you want to get in on that, I would sign up for notifications, but there still are 150 of these that should be for sale. My coupon code does work on that, so Uncommon EDC will save you 10% off this bundle, or I guess $8.88. And so with that price point, you get the knife itself, you get the Xpac Latitude Case, and all of the other items besides the knife are available in other colors, but of course the bundle, everything's going to be color matched, so you're going to get the orange version of them. And so this is the Xpac Latitude Case, YKK zipper. As you can see, just kind of a nice little catch-all pouch, but on the back you have some pocket organization with some extra pockets. This one in particular I really like. It's pretty wide, so pretty generous for a larger size knife, both in terms of the length and the width of that pocket. So I like that about it. And then you have this slimmer one, which can fit slimmer knives, of course, but you can also use it for like pens and flashlights and smaller items like that. And so pretty cool case. It has this Velcro panel on it, and these sell on their website for $14.95. The patches that you see here are also part of the bundle. The 2-pack of these is $2.95, also available in glow in the dark if you did want to buy those separately. So $2.95 there. We have our Xpac wallet. I already have this wallet from one of their mystery bundles in the past, but a different color, and this is Xpac as well, so going to be UV resistant, weather resistant, based off of sailcloth. Pretty minimal front pocket wallet, only 2 slots here, but they're pretty generous slots as well. So if you're someone who carries a lot of credit cards but still wants a minimal front pocket wallet, this is a pretty good option, and these sell for $9.95. Last item in that bundle is the Pop pen, and these are very similar to Pocket Pen, but these are made by a different company. I think it was Acme Tech. I didn't write it down, but if I remember correctly, it was Acme Tech, but they function like Pocket Pens. They feel a little bit sturdier, thicker plastic, and a slightly different texture. They do ship with this lanyard, and they work like a Pocket Pen, so they do turn into a full-size pen, but they store at about half the size. So a nice way to carry a pen without taking up a lot of real estate. These are only $1.95, and so if you were to buy these 4 items separately, you'd end up paying $29.80, meaning that you're effectively paying $59.08 for the knife, which seems pretty reasonable because if memory serves correctly, I paid $59 for the original Hanson, so you're not really paying any premium for the limited colorway. I guess maybe that 8 cents, but still really, really cool. Now, wanted to show this next to that original. And so the original was this pink and blue colorway. They also had a black one, and so that one didn't have the orange, it was just black with a black underlay. And you can see the main portion of this is that bottom layer, but the portion you see is the top layer, so a very thin top layer overall. The sprinkle pattern is identical. You can see a slightly different blade shape, a little bit more tip on our CountyComm exclusive version, but otherwise they're going to be identical. The original also wasn't serialized, but no change in the steel or anything like that. So all of that will be the same, but we'll go over it here for those who haven't seen this knife before or didn't want to watch the original video or go back to that. So overall length here, we're looking at 7.075 inches, nice kind of medium-sized knife, 4.071 inches in these G10 handles, and both of those layers are G10. The black is just laser cut to show the second layer. And so 4.071, which I'm able to get all 4 fingers around a little bit more snugly than you might expect for a handle that size. And so I don't really have the real estate to spread out if I want to. I'm pretty compact there, but I do fit on there very comfortably. And the reason for that is just our flipper tab. That's pretty common with knives with a flipper tab. And so it does kind of sit you further back from that pivot, but no hot spots or anything. The pocket clip is well placed right in the center, so it hides behind your knuckles. I actually really like the lanyard hole placement as well, even though I don't use them. It is on that back spacer, and I like the placement of it. Those sprinkles don't really add anything to the texture like you might expect, but G10 is already pretty grippy, so you're not really missing out on anything, but you don't feel them, which you might expect just because you have all these random holes, and I don't find myself noticing them at all in the grip. Now there is some jimping, and actually a decent amount of it, so we have some here towards the back, which I don't really notice, but there's this jimping up at the front of the handle, which is very grippy and is pretty effective in locking your thumb there. We also have some on the blade. What I find with the jimping though is the natural placement of my fingers, I end up landing right behind the blade jimping and in front of the handle jimping. So I'm maybe getting onto that last 2 jimping on the handle, but the meat of my thumb is really above the thumb stud, which doesn't have any jimping, and that's fine. I still feel very nice and locked in, and I can stretch out and get there. It just doesn't feel as natural as where I place my finger naturally, and so end up in that kind of no man's land, but that's fine. And so with the blade, we have D2 steel, obviously that Tanto style blade or Tanto-esque style blade. Nice hollow grind on these actually. So the blade length on this is 2.917 inches, super thin and slicey, not a super thick blade stock either. I think it's about 0.11 inches thick there. We do have this wedge on the tip to give us a little bit of a more penetrating power there, a little bit more of a sharp tip, although it is still on the thicker side as far as some tips go. And so nice hollow grind as I alluded to, and the action on these is really great. This one weighed in at 3.34 ounces, so not super heavy, not super light, kind of in that sweet spot as well. And they are on ceramic ball bearings. Now, the detent on this one does seem to be just a hair heavier than on my original, but it's still very nice. And we have 2 different deployment methods. Both of them, the detent feels pretty dialed in. Sometimes it can get a little bit wonky where one's good and one's bad. I find that this one's on the heavier side, but both are good, super snappy, and that heavy detent does mean that you're always gonna put enough force behind it where you're really not going to get failures. You can see how snappy that is with the thumb stud, and same thing with the flipper tab, and same thing for your thumb stud. Also, the placement of the thumb stud is nice and tucked behind that cutting path, so shouldn't have any issues there. You do have a sharpening tool there as well, and I find the billboarding to be pretty minimal. Obviously, the whole thing's kind of a billboard for that donut theme, but as far as their logo goes, just the CDC here, and that's not too bad at all. If we flip over to the other side, we do have the serial number, which I could take it or leave it. I wouldn't mind seeing that on the liners, and this does have liners, although they're nested, so it's not as obvious, which I do like. And so we have the 189 out of 200 here in the same place as that CDC logo, and then the D2 stamp right here hidden by the handle. So nothing too major. I like the pocket clip a lot, super deep carry and effective, and again, love the color of these. I believe we have T6 across the board for the body screws, and so wouldn't mind seeing those T8, but I'm probably not going to disassemble this much or really get much carry out of it at all, since this one's going to my wife, and she tends to just throw them in her purse and use them when she uses them. She's not doing maintenance or taking them apart, so those torque screws don't bother me as much as it might if it were a knife I were keeping myself. But overall, I think this is a really cool knife. I wanted to get this video out kind of earlier before she's carried it too much, in case they end up releasing releasing it earlier, and also because they're doing a giveaway of number 69 out of 200 on their Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, I'll link to that giveaway post in the description of this video. This is going live on Thursday, I think that's March 7th, and I believe they're doing the drawing on Friday, March 8th on the CDC live stream, and so you should still have time to enter that if you're watching this video early, so which is why I wanted to get this video out. But if you end up waiting till that April 22nd release date, do make sure to use that coupon code, because that will save you an additional $8.88, and that's Uncommon EDC. That will be in the description of this video. And again, I did buy this knife at full price. This is just something I wanted to grab for my wife, and so wanted to get in on that early access window. But would love to hear your thoughts on it down in the comments below. If you have the original, what you thought of that one, and anything else you'd like to leave behind. I always appreciate any sort of interaction, and if you enjoyed this, definitely consider hitting that like button, commenting, subscribing, joining the channel as a member. All help the channel out a ton. And thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great one. Take care.